Okay, page 41. Thank you very much. Oh, there's a back, sorry. Yeah. Don't worry if you can't keep up with like writing, we'll go through it afterwards. So if you just want to watch and like absorb the first time, that's totally fine, okay? What does the information from a gene do? It codes for a protein, yes. Thank you. Do you guys know what kind of a protein that's called? Where it speeds up a chemical reaction? That is an enzyme, yes. And an enzyme is a biological, starts with a C, catalyst, yes. Catalysts speed up chemical reactions. Okay, so a lot of this we kind of already know, but some of it's new. Let's go through and see what we've got. All right, each one of our cells contains how many strands of DNA? 46. Yes.
Can I put your water, please?
Yes. A single strand is made of millions of particles called nucleotides. Now, when it comes to DNA and nucleotides are the monomers, and DNA is the polymer. Nucleotides, monomer, polymer. They come in 4 different types, which scientists have labeled A, T, C, and G. It doesn't matter what order you put them in. What is we call it the rule of something base pairing? Complementary, yes. The rule of complementary base pairing is that A pairs with T and C pairs with G. And remember, when I put stars, those are things that we could ask about on a quiz, which I think will take place on Wednesday. Well, I could do it tomorrow. You want tomorrow? No. We're going to have another quiz by Friday. Oh, yeah. There's not that much, right? And you get to make a cheat sheet, right? Yeah, it's all good. Okay. It's a new cheat sheet, new quiz, new cheat sheet. Pardon me? You can just add on to your old one. Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't have to be brand new. Just add on to your old one. Okay, a gene is a stretch or segment of DNA, a sequence of A's, C's, T's, and G's that codes for something. A gene contains information for the cell to read, but what exactly does that information do? So here's our gene, okay? It is a section of DNA. There's a blue-eye gene, a freckle gene, possibly even an anger gene. Well, to be honest, eye color is actually a really complicated thing. There's many genes involved in eye color. Plus, eye color can change over time based on your age, based on your environment, various things like that. When my son was born, he had these really slate gray eyes, and then they turned olive green, and now they're brown. So who knows, right? Hair color, similar. When I was born, I had really light blonde hair, and then in my teens, I had a lot of red in my hair, and now it's just sort of, come out to a sort of medium blonde kind of thing. So lots of people's hair color changes over time, lots of people's eye color changes over time. So you never quite know. Genes make proteins. This is super simplified. If you go on and study biology, you'll learn that there's other things that genes do, but basically for grade 9, that's all we need to know. These proteins then interact with each other and all sorts of other chemicals in the body to build things like eye color. What kind of a protein would make eye color? A pigment. So you should know the word pigment. Freckles. And freckles are also a pigment. And mood-altering hormones. And you should know the word hormones. A single strand of DNA contains thousands of genes or protein building, I would guess codes. I don't know what it actually said on the video. Pardon me? Recipes. Humans have roughly how many genes? I have no idea. I was not paying that close of attention. Some genes are small, only about 300 letters long. Others are well over 1 million. Did anyone catch that? Humans have roughly how many genes? I don't know. Let me just pop back here for a second. Humans have 20,000? That sounds right. That rings a bell for me. I'm just going to go with it. It's not a number you need to memorize anyway, so let's not worry too much about it. Okay, the length and sequence of a gene determine the what and what of the protein? Size and shape or function. The size and shape determine the function that the protein will have inside the body. Hemoglobin, for example, is a protein structure found in red blood cells. Its unique size and shape allow it to capture oxygen molecules when blood flows near the lungs. It's actually really cool. I don't know if you guys caught this while the video was going on, but it starts in this like open position. And then when oxygen comes in, the oxygen binds to certain areas of the hemoglobin, and that causes the hemoglobin to close and hold on to the oxygen quite tightly. And then it'll go through the blood, it'll go to a tissue. So maybe it goes to your heart, maybe it goes to your brain, to your foot, to your liver, whatever. It goes there. And when you get close to the cells, this is actually really interesting, the environment of the blood is a little bit more acidic. Okay? And that little bit of acid causes the shape of the protein to change and to open up. Now, why is it acidic? Because what your cells do is they take sugar and they use it up and they produce water and carbon dioxide. When carbon dioxide dissolves in water or the blood, it produces carbonic acid, which makes your blood a little bit acidic. Okay? And so when you're near the, or is that right? Did I get that right? Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway. I think I might have gotten it backwards, but you're not going to remember it by the time you're in grade 12 anyway. So I'm not going to worry about whether I got it backwards or not. Okay, basically if there's a more acidic pH, it lets go. If there's a less acidic pH, it grabs on, or backwards from that. I can't remember which, because I haven't taught biology in like 100 years or 30, one of those two. All right, and then it releases them, the oxygen molecules, later when the blood flows near oxygen-starved tissues. Pepsin is a digestive protein. It is an enzyme. It speeds up the breakdown of food. You need to know the word enzyme. Its unique shape allows it to break down food inside your stomach so it can be absorbed by the body. Pepsin is an enzyme. Oh, I wrote that already. Oh, well, we wrote it twice. What type of a protein is keratin? It's building fingernails, claws, beaks, hair. It is a structural protein. It builds things. Its unique size and shape allow it to link together with other keratin proteins to form hard structures like fingernails, claws, and beaks. That fixes for me because I need to make that a capital letter there. Just ignore it. Different creatures have different genes, which is why all their bodies look and function differently. But if you think about it, when you eat food, your body turns it into glucose, and glucose is used by your cells to give you energy. Okay, and then it gets reacted with oxygen and it produces carbon dioxide and water. Your cells do this. All animal cells do this. Most bacteria do this. Most amoebas do this. All cells, other than, well, actually all plant cells do this. So you can imagine that all the DNA that is needed for taking sugar and using its energy all the DNA that codes for that process is going to be the same for you. It's going to be the same for a gorilla. It's going to be the same for a dog, and it's going to be the same for a banana. So the fact that we might share 50% of our DNA with a fruit fly, or even 50% of our DNA with a banana, is not actually that surprising, because there's a lot of things that happen in the cell that are exactly the same, whether it puts together as a human or whether it gets put together as a banana. Okay? One of the many reasons scientists believe that all life on Earth is related is that the basic DNA code is pretty much the same for all living things. How much do we share with a chimpanzee? 96%. How much do we share with the fruit fly? Around 50%. Because all creatures use DNA in pretty much the same way, genetic engineers have found that they can take a gene from, say, a bacteria cell and insert that DNA into the DNA of a plant or animal cell. And way back at the beginning of time, before I was a teacher, I worked at the Biotechnology Research Institute in Montreal. It was part of the National Research Council of Canada. I did that for a co-op job. And I was taking a gene from one bacteria that ate up this nasty toxin that was like in soil and stuff that was like, you know, industries would make this horrible chemical that was a carcinogen. It would cause cancer and it would get into the soil and it would be really awful. There was a kind of bacteria that had an enzyme that would eat it and break it down into non-toxic products. But these bacteria were not actually very good at like thriving. They didn't live easily. They did not grow prolifically. So we were trying to actually clone a gene from one bacteria into a different bacteria that lived at the right temperature and all of those things. And that was great and interesting. And then I was like, I don't like doing research science because most of the time it didn't work. We tried to clone the gene and we tried to clone the gene. And we actually got the gene in, but then getting the gene to turn on is another whole matter entirely. So I worked on it for 8 months and we never got it to turn on. And I was like, wow, 8 months is not actually very long in terms of research. And I don't have the patience for that. So then I was like, what else could I do? And now I'm a teacher. So there we are. Story of my life. All right. That animal or plant cell will read the gene and will produce the bacterial protein. Engineers have mixed and matched genes. This should say of. Mixed and matched the genes of many different organisms to produce many new creatures. In other words, genetically modified organisms. Have you guys heard of GMOs? Yeah? They're not always bad. I know people like to vilify them. They have their problems, that's for darn sure, and some companies do not use them ethically, but they do have advantages, including corn that is toxic to insects, but is supposedly safe for human consumption. Tomatoes that last up to twice as long at the grocery store before going bad. So here's our modified tomato, and then here's our normal tomato. And that's a really good thing if you're having to transport those tomatoes a long distance. So if you are in if you're living in northern BC and your food has to be trucked up to you, you don't want those tomatoes going bad, right? On the other hand, lots of people complain that the tomatoes that you get in the store, they lack flavor. They're not as good as the ones you can just grow in your garden, right? People love the heirloom tomatoes. I don't know. I personally think that tomatoes are a sour, mushy hell fruit, but lots of people love tomatoes. So sometimes it's nice to have the normal tomato, even though it doesn't last as long. A new form of bacteria that produces the human hormone, insulin. Have you guys heard of insulin? Yes? What is insulin for? Yeah, it helps your cells to take up sugars. Okay, and if you're insulin resistant, there's going to be glucose in your blood, but it won't get transported into the cell. Yes? Oh, protein. It is a hormone, it is a protein. It's both. Thank you. And we collect that insulin from the bacteria and we give it to people with diabetes who need insulin to survive. Now that's kind of good because they used to have to get insulin. Was it from horses or pigs? I can't remember, but it's really good that they can just produce it from bacteria now. It's just a much easier and more humane way of doing it. Insulin is a hormone that helps sugar move from the bloodstream into your cells. Summary: a gene is a special stretch of DNA, not the entire strand of DNA, just a segment. It codes for something. Each gene is a unique recipe that tells a cell how to make a protein or a group of proteins. Different creatures have different genes, but all genes are written in the same basic DNA language of A's, C's, T's, and G's. All right, so we have some questions here on page 48. So what I'd like you to do is I would like you to do page 48. And then you are going to add on, to your cheat sheet for your quiz on Wednesday, which is tomorrow. Okay. Let's take a quick vote. Quiz tomorrow? 1, 2, 3. Quiz Thursday? Thursday it is.
But didn't you say there was also going to be a quiz on Friday?
There may also be one on Friday. We'll find out.
Well, if I'm ready to do the quiz on Wednesday.
If you're ready to do the quiz tomorrow, you can do the quiz tomorrow. Okay? Hi.
So here it says DNA is made of millions of subunits called
Yes.
nucleotides, right?
Yeah.
And the bases are the subunits of that.
Yeah, they are. It's a little, sometimes we get a little loosey-goosey with the language. My apologies. Yes. I marked your other quiz, and in fact, I can get that back to you right now as well.
I really want